enough talking because I've got to keep this short. So straight into the racing. I am going to do a few multiples today, and I'm going to put up a nap, regardless, at a bigger price. Um, they won't be going on my blog, so if people haven't watched the video, mainly because I just don't want to go through everything on the blog and put it all up on there, I'm just going to do it on the video tonight. So here we go, straight into it. Anti-post selections for the JCB Triumph, 16 to 1 Lossiemouth and 6 to 1 Blood Destiny. Now 13 to 8 and 9 to 4. So before a day like today, I'll be saying hopefully one of them is going to be a steering job and it'll be the job done. But obviously we shall see. But obviously plenty of people won't have any anti-posts, so they'll be looking to see who I think is going to win. I think a horse that's very interesting, if you want a longer shot, is Zenta, who's currently 14 to 1. Wouldn't be backing it, wouldn't tell anyone to back it, to be honest, but it's just one to keep in your notebook for going forward. Just because Zenta of Willie Mullins won well on debut, but seemed to be late to the party. Only had 2 runs, 2 wins, only 1 run for Willie Mullins. Really well on that, won really well, but this looks a bit of a step up in class and clattered the last 2 fences. But if you want to do some stupid tri-cast or something, there wouldn't be one to put you off. Galan Marceau, interesting horse. Plenty of people think they're going to uphold the form of Lossiemouth. Can't see it myself. Fitted with a hood tomorrow. The horse is just so keen. Like, I can understand running a big race and okay, maybe could beat Lossiemouth, but wouldn't be for me. Like, even if I hadn't had a bet in this, I wouldn't be going with Galan Marceau because she's so keen. And as we saw today, that track takes a lot of getting down the back straight. And if you're a keen going horse, like, the horse was pretty much leaning into Lossiemouth. It was leaning so hard at the Dublin Racing Festival. Still managed to win, obviously, but Lossiemouth had everything go wrong that day. I'll be disappointed if Lossiemouth can't reverse that form. Obviously, the real talking point is Lossiemouth versus Blood Destiny, 2 stablemates. The rumour is that the reason that Takao was so well punted earlier on this week for the Boodles was because apparently Takao had been working really well and apparently working better than Blood Destiny when they all went for a big gallops day. And obviously Takao completely flopped, so maybe he was working too well at home, or maybe Lossie is the better of the two. For me, the reason I'm going with Lossiemouth, if I was having a straight up pick, yeah, the price is shorter. I think they'll probably be in the morning. Another big thing tomorrow is the bookmakers will be looking to take your money, and what I mean by that is you'll be getting places like Betfred. I went in this morning. They do 10:30 and 12 o'clock. They're doing boosts. William Hill do boosts. All sorts of Bet365 do boosts. You'll probably be looking at Lossiemouth maybe at 2 to 1 in the morning. Blood Destiny will maybe be 5 to 2 or something like that. So wait for the morning, have a look round, see what you can get. It wouldn't surprise me if you're getting 2 to 1 on Lossiemouth. The reason I like her is because she's gone down the proven graded route, similar to what Vauban did last year. She's gone through all the big trials and done it for the Triumph trials. She's racing against Triumph horses. She would have collected a Group 1 at the Dublin Race Festival, whereas Blood Destiny's took the alternate route and has just smashed up 2 Boodles horses, 2 sets of Boodles horses. Don't get me wrong, the horses beat, obviously they won the they ran well, and obviously Jazzy Matty was behind Blood Destiny, who obviously was about 10 lengths behind one of the Boodles, but the Boodles is a handicap at the end of the day. So they don't want to get close to Blood Destiny, but his times are good, sectionals are good, and there's very little to split between them. They both came from France, both bought from Orteil, same race, same day. They raced on the, Blood Destiny raced on the same ground the race before. Their time was quicker when finishing behind behind Beau Zenith. So there is very little, and Lossiemouth raced off levels that day. So the time was quicker, but they were off levels. Obviously, Lossiemouth gets the weight here. Is the choice of Paul Townend, which is interesting, but you don't know where the politics go behind that. But what I did find interesting was, I think something that is possibly a little underlooked stuff is obviously Danny Mullins wouldn't have wanted to break his partnership up with Galan Marceau. I haven't took a Group 1 from the front on that horse. So therefore, Patrick's coming for the ride on Blood Destiny. So how many rides can you remember Patrick riding from the front? The last one I could think of is the Chapeau de Soleil Nightmare, but that wasn't his fault. That was the horse. But don't get me wrong, sometimes he's prominent in a bumper, and he might go close to the front sort of thing. But it's very, very rare you see him do anything but hold a horse up. He is literally like a Jamie Spencer of the flat. His trademark ride. Prime today, he was Mr. Incredible when he got going way too late. And again, and the opposite was a brilliant ride on Galia du Mesnil on Tuesday. That is his prime thing. So if he's going to ride Blood Destiny like they've rode so far, where he goes out in front, sets the fractions, he's going to have that head in his clock. And has he got it? I don't know. It's just not something I've. Whereas if Paul Townend was on Blood Destiny, I'd no doubt that he could do that without fail. So I'm not saying that obviously Patrick can't do it. I'm just saying it's going to be interesting to see him try, because he's not a rider. I can't remember ever seeing him on a Cheltenham front run and ride. Like, he looks at Billaway, Factor File, they came from the clouds. Like, all of his rides normally at Cheltenham, he's coming from the back or in the pack. That's just not his style of running. So it's going to be an interesting conundrum for him to try and work out. I think there's very little between them, much like the El Fabio John Bond coin toss I got wrong in the week. There isn't a lot between. I just think one's got better form. And a lot of people say, well, mares, fillies, they don't have a good record in this race. But how many of them really are to this sort of level? So I think Willie Mullins will know what he's got. And it is a close call. Would I be surprised if Blood Destiny won? No, of course I wouldn't. But I'll be disappointed if it's not between the two of them. But of my choice, if you're getting, say, 2-1 and 5-2 probably in the morning, Lossiemouth would definitely be my selection if I hadn't got a bet and I was placing it tomorrow. On to the 210. 210, brilliant race, county. A lot of people don't like the handicaps. I used to not like the handicaps at all, mainly because I didn't really understand a handicap until the last probably 5 years. But a lot of trainers target these races, so I just stick prime to the trainers that target this race. And of this race, of the last, is it 7 renewals? I've probably got this. Give me a second. I'll just check my blog, which I've not got the page up for. I want to say Willie Mullins, I think it's 6 of 7. Willie Mullins has took 4 of the last 8 in the county hurdle. So of his that he runs, he's got Hunter's Yarn, Sharjah, and a few others at big prices. So Sharjah, you can totally see it's the old cliche Group 1 horse stepping back into a handicap, gone down in the weights. Has he even been, like, how hard's he been trying this year? You look through his form. Second behind Fildor, 9 lengths behind State Man, 4 lengths behind State Man. Clearly not on the Group 1 level anymore, but at the same time, how much effort was he really putting in if they had this as the plan all along? So it does make sense, and they've done it before. For me, though, looking at the ground today, and it is raining again now, is that ground's not going to be good or good to firm. That's going to be probably soft or soft, good to soft in places. It's going to have cut in it, basically, and I think Sharjah's best form. Don't get me wrong, he has placed in soft ground champion hurdles, but he's not getting any younger. Like, you're looking at his age, he's a 10-year-old now. And I understand the people that are making the case for him at 14-1 totally makes sense. Can't put you off him, really, but he's just not a horse that I'd want to play in this race. And the same goes for Hunter's Yarn. Hunter's Yarn, if you look back in the last few years, like Willie Mullins, some of his hurdles that he's put in the handicaps, they've become his best horses. So the last 2 have been State Man and Galopin des Champs. They've skipped the novice hurdle route, as in going through Supreme or Ballymore, and they've come here under the radar. But I don't think Hunter's Yarn's got quite the same sort of profile. Like, those horses were finishing, say, 3rd at a Dublin Racing Festival or 3rd at Christmas, and then they would have 1 win over their 2 or 3 runs. Whereas you look at these, and like Hunter's Yarn's absolutely smashing up horses like Imagine and Quirk's Gate. So he's well and truly on the handicap radar, and he's coming in here off 11.6, which is only £4 short of Sharjah. So, I mean, only £8 short of Sharjah. So is he really an £8 lesser horse? Sharjah obviously, Sharjah's still running just short of 160, so 155s. So is he only an £8 lesser horse than Sharjah? So either Sharjah's well in, which could well be the case, but more likely is Hunter's Yarn really that far ahead straight away? I mean, he could be. Don't get me wrong. So, but at the end of the day, you can't back them all. So, but I can't put you off either of those. But for Hunter's Yarn, he does not fit the normal Galopin des Champs and State Man profiles. And I was on both of those. I picked them both out in the distance and got 8s on both of those. So he just doesn't fit the profile. But would I be surprised if he won? No, of course I wouldn't. At the same time, so my 2 selections before I start waffling. I'm sticking with Filey Bay. Not overly confident, as in I think that'll be, well, it is definitely my smaller bet. More of like the cover at 6-1 currently. Obviously, we've got 10-1 anti-post. I think the Betfair hurdle is always one of the most competitive races of the season. How he handles the soft ground will always be up to the debate, because he's got form on good soft and he's won on it. But you never know with his past with Emmett Mullins. But I just think Emmett Mullins is a master trainer. What was the Betfair even the master plan? You just don't know with him, obviously, because he's such a brilliant trainer. the horses that have ran in the Betfair hurdle, there's yet the form's not been tested that much. I could probably run through the form, and there probably is a few that have run this week, and they may not have gone so well. But at the end of the day, every horse is different. It's how you recover from it. Very different conditions, as in it'll be tomorrow's race will be a stay-in race, whereas back then obviously it was a speed test in the county, in the Betfair. Sorry, keeping him on side, JP McManus. You know you're not going wrong. The one that I really, really like, and he is tomorrow's nap at a bigger price. So, not saying he's obviously the most likely to win, and I was reluctant to put any sort of nap or any sort of thing up after today's results. But a horse that I really fancy to go well at a bigger price, at 8-1, is Pembroke. And is a horse I put up at 16-1. I mentioned him again, and I put him up on the blog on Sunday. I put him up, and he was 10-1. And he's just got such a solid profile for this race. The Skeltons, obviously, Mullins has got 4 of the last 8. Skeltons has got 3 of the last 7. So generally, it seems like when Willie Mullins isn't winning it, Dan Skelton is. So he knows exactly what it is to win this race. West Cork was on an absolute career low to come into this race, and they didn't declare him. They left Pembroke in instead. So he comes in here. He gets off a featherweight 136. He clearly didn't stay at Cheltenham at the 2 mile 4 in the soft ground. He drops back. He was strong travelling all over the winner that day, and he just didn't find enough in the last furlong. Rock My Way just went away from him. But he goes back to the 2 miles here. He's got form on heavy ground. As I said, he's in a featherweight. Skeltons know how to win. They've already had a handicap hurdle winner this week. And I just think his profile is so strong for the race. I just think, yeah, okay, it's such a competitive race, such a good race. Would I be surprised if he wasn't in the places? Yeah, of course, that can always happen. But at the same time, I just think he fits the exact sort of profile of what they look for, and they would have known that straight away. And when he got in such a low mark with his thing, and he gets in here and he's off a low weight, and I just think he must have. Well, he hopefully has plenty more to come. They've put him away since then. He's got course form, and I'd imagine he's going to travel incredibly well into this field. And hopefully, when the push button goes, he's got something under the belt. So yeah, Pembroke and small bet on Filey Bay. 250. So put up Corbett's Cross 7-1 anti-post. I've put him again in the blog at 4-1. I updated the blog this morning as well prior to day 3 racing, and I haven't wavered away from him with Corbett's Cross. My worry is a little bit: am I doing too much of my sticking to my anti-post guns? But I just think that this horse, my only concern with it is how quick he can recover in three weeks. Because his impressive performance against Founder 50 was very good. I think Founder 50 will be a very good horse for Elliott over 2 miles, and to be able to do that over 2 miles, and people are like, well, you can't match it, but I mean, he over 3 miles, he's got the form over 3 miles, over 2 miles 4. He beat Seabank Bistro comfortably 3.5 lengths, and like he's doing this like on the snap, like laughing, and each time he's improving 10 pounds in his RPRs. So, or if he runs his race, I can't see how he doesn't go close. Because we know he handles the form, we know he's quicker than a lot of these, but it just depends if it turns to a war of attrition, is that going to suit him? I think he's the best horse going forward. So looking at Gold Cups, Ryan Ayres or something like that, like obviously in big hurdle races, but they could have, if they were worried, they could have gone Supreme or Ballymore. The fact that they've decided to keep to this trip is very interesting. They wouldn't be running if Emmett Mullins wasn't happy. Because even McManus wants winners. They're not stupid. They could have waited a couple of weeks and he could have gone mopped up Aintree and Punchestown. So if they weren't happy, they wouldn't be here. So he's got to be on your shortlist. 3-card Bragg, he totally comes into it now with the ground, like as in he is an absolute stayer and plodder. But I've never been a fan of the horse. He beat Spanish Harlem, who's favourite for the Martin Pipe, and I think that horse is an absolute yak. And even if he wins tomorrow, okay, yeah, eggs on my face. I still think he's a terrible price. He's the 5-1 favourite for that race. But he was a neck down to in the pocket who didn't do too well in the Supreme. This is 3-card Bag, but he just looks like a horse that's always staying on when the race is over. And obviously, looking at conditions today, maybe that will be perfect because the race will look over and they've got such a long stamina test all the way up. He'll have an age to get up on the line, but he could still manage to find it too late. And of the front 2, I definitely pick the other one. And I haven't picked one yet, but of the shortlist, I've got the Hidden Valley Lake with Rachel Blackmore and De Bromend, who obviously was favourite for this race, ran a great race with Monty Star when giving him weight, and just failed to get up. Favre de Champs, I was a fan of. I was hoping he was going to go to handicap. But the one that really takes my fancy is now drifted to 22-1. So he's probably likely, in fact, he is going to be my selection because I didn't realise he'd gone to that sort of bigger price. Let me just check that is correct. 22 to 1. Yes, he's now 22 to 1, and that's a Shambally Kid. So my main bet will be Corbett's Cross, but my second bet is going to be Shambally Kid. And to be honest, it's quite simple. Like Willie Mullins has won this with bigger price horses in the past, often the second or third string. He doesn't really overphase his bigger horses, so like his 3 milers. And he's just got a progressive profile. So he won over 2 miles, and then he's been stepped up to 2 mile 4 furlongs. And when he stepped up to 2 mile 4 furlongs, he still had plenty to do coming into the finish, but he gets up to beat Monty Star. So Monty Star is 16 to 1, and obviously Monty Star, albeit getting weight, beat Hidden Valley Lake, who's 8 to 1. So I mean, he's got form lines that tie in with all of the best horses there. So I think the most likely, as in if I hadn't had a bet on Corbett's Cross, as in if he wasn't in the race, I was edging towards Hidden Valley Lake and Shambally Kid. But I may end up backing both of those two in the end anyway. But the Corbett's Cross, I definitely recommend having a saver on because he could be the star of the pack. But yeah, I like Shambally Kid and I like Hidden Valley Lake. And if the prices dictate, if I can get 22 to 1 and 10 to 1, and obviously you've already backed at 8 to 1, but if you're doing fresh selection, just 4 to 1. But I'd probably just have a saver if that was the case. Even though I think he's the best horse, like this race, like he could just blow it apart, or it may not be a race that suits him. But yeah, no, I think it's a very competitive race though. Small stakes. I've never liked the potato race, and I never back at anti-post, which is why I only backed the Corbett's Cross literally last week when he won. So on to the big one, the Gold Cup. So Gold Cup, let's keep this simple. I'm going to try and go as fast as possible. Ahoy Senor, I'm still not a massive fan of his jumping. Depending on how testing it gets, will depend on how much it suits him, because he might get more of a chance to come into the race a bit more. Good form on the Brown Advisory last year, but he did find La Home Press too good for him. He is coming to the Boyle though, but that race that he won, beating Protectorat, I don't rate the form of that, which leads me to Protectorat, who I'm not a massive fan of. Manila Indo will have his chance, but he's not getting any younger now at 10. Conflated, 9-year-old, it would be very Davy Russell, prime Davy Russell, after all the stick he's taken from Michael O'Leary this week to get up and win a Gold Cup for them on the here at Cheltenham. But he's not been on my radar personally. He doesn't strike me as one of their better horses in the past. But obviously, I'm only doing one-liners here, literally one liner on form. So you can make your own choices. A Gold Cup, you all know the form as well as I do because it's all been there for the last year. Statler, I think wherever Galloping finishes, Statler will finish behind that, unless the ground comes up a lot heavier. Noble Yates is still to me a Grand National horse. I just think I think he's going to end up having, I can't see the headgear here. It wouldn't surprise me if he's going to end up having headgear back on again tomorrow. Does it say anywhere if he's having headgear? I can't see where it's at. The softer the ground, the better will suit for him. But he seems to get in quite a bit of trouble towards the start of the race and get himself out the back, and then he stays on well, just like you would want in a Grand National. That's fine, but if they crawl like in the A Plus Tard race and then sprint, I'm not sure how much that would suit him. And then if they but at least he'd find his feet. But if they crawl but then wind it up, then that would suit, that sort of race pace would suit him because he can crow into the race. But in reality, I think he just needs too many angles to go correctly for him to win the race. I just think he'll probably be staying on when the race is too late because he just doesn't seem to jump well enough. But we'll see, because I'd never write Emmett Mullins off, but I don't think he's going to win this personally. Brave Man's Game, best piece of form in the race, that King George win, despite everyone saying. And obviously yesterday, people will be saying Paul Nicholls can't train a winner, they're all running out of form, and then Stage Star goes and romps it. That's the thing with Paul Nicholls, is he gets every inch out of his jumpers. They literally jump impeccably. And that's exactly what Stage Star did today, and I'd expect the exact same to happen tomorrow with Brave Man's Game. He'll be jumping on the button all the way around. The only thing for him is not that he won't handle it, but I just think the better the ground, the better his chance. I think these classy travellers and classy chasers, they like the good ground. But it was soft at Kempton, but obviously this is going to be a proper stamina test. And you've seen the way they were slogging it out on some of those handicaps, and in the Stayers hurdle, the mud was flying and they were coming up the hill. So he is going to be tested, but I didn't give him a chance for the King George, and then once he came back, the way he came back on the bridle and was going away from La Home Press easily, I just thought he's got more. He's grown into his frame. His jumping's brilliant. Like, he's going to take lengths out of horses like Ahoy Senor every time he jumps. So I still think he's got a great chance. A Plus Tard's obviously become the gamble of the week because everything Henry de Bromhead's running is running brilliantly, and that is so good for racing because Henry's had such a quiet like 4, 5, 6 months. Like the only horse I can remember of big recognition was Manila Indo winning at Christmas against Statler. Um, but apart from that, a lot of his horses have been very quiet this year, but he's just got them to peak one more time. But I think this will be, obviously, I don't know how long Henry's, but I think this will be his career training performance of his lifetime so far, despite obviously Honeysuckle winning all the time and stuff, if he can get this horse to win. Just because I think it's undervalued the magnitude that this would be, because he's ran once since absolutely romping in the Gold Cup last year. And that once he was awful in the Betfair Chase. And then he was supposed to run at Christmas. The vibes weren't good. And then he got pulled there. And then he's coming here fresh. Don't get me wrong. We know he can do it, because obviously when he ran on the Betfair Chase before, like 6 months after his second in the Gold Cup the year before, he went to the Betfair Chase and he was phenomenal in the Betfair Chase. And it would have been soft ground. He didn't miss a beat. And so would I be surprised if he won? No, but I'm just saying it's not an easy task. And he is getting short now. He's 4-1. But I've heard people saying that he might even end up being like not far behind Galopin Des Champs soon. So we'll see. Does he have his chance? Yeah, of course he does. But it's just, if you're backing a horse at 4-1, you'd like to think plenty's in your favour. But some Gold Cup winners don't ever win another race after that. And he did have a hard race and a proper race. So you're taking your chance. I'd be more confident that he will run his race than he won't run his race. But at the same time, I'm just happy to just leave it. And then obviously onto the monster Galopin Des Champs. My only concern is that Willie Mullins generally likes to prep his Gold Cup horses around the Christmas period, and then give them a nice big break coming into this. Whereas he didn't appear to have a hard race, but it definitely wasn't an easy race either at the Dublin Race Festival, just because of how hard he gives himself a race, where he was obviously basically impossible to pull up. He got going very late. They were clearly trying to teach him that day. They got him switched off. If anything, got him too switched off. Because when asked push and shove, he didn't really, it was like, hang on a minute. And then once he got going, they couldn't pull him up after the line, and he stayed on well there. Obviously, the form's nothing to write back to, but he did have Statler still well beat on that day. But the thing is on that as well is that something that a lot of people haven't picked up on was, apparently there was quite a few horses that worked together on the week before, and like horses like Galopin Des Champs, Facile Vega, Lossymouth, and Blue Lord. And obviously those were the 4 short ones at the DRF. And of those 4, no one could see any of those beaten. Galopin Des Champs was the only one that won of all 4 of them. Obviously, Lossymouth, you don't know how she would run a race, but the other 2 completely flopped. So the rumour was that there's a strong chance that whatever they did in that piece of work had a bit of an effect. So Galopin, I said he wasn't as zest, like I said, he didn't have quite his jumping zest. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's won that through his class. Obviously, this is a complete theory of my own, nothing on anyone else's. That he's won that on his class anyway, just being that good a horse, and that he comes on, because I'd like to see him jump with the zest that he had before, and travel like that, because I want him to be up featuring prominently. I don't want to see him out the back. And then that he stays on, and because we know he's got gears and the afterburners. He is a little short at the moment, and for whatever reason he's coming to 11-8. I don't know why, because Willie Mullins hasn't exactly cleared up today. So he's coming to 11-8. I'd be shocked if you're not getting close to 2-1 or 5-2 tomorrow, because obviously he's priced up as if he's already won a Gold Cup before and he's beaten everything before him. But at the same time, obviously he's unbeaten for a long time now, bar is full, and he has wiped the floor with everything. Like you look at his RPRs, and he's on his last RPR was a 174, which is up there with like the likes of Brave Man's Game and everyone else in the race. The only horse that's really got the numbers that are another class above is A Plus Tard. And if he runs his race, obviously he needs to improve. Galopin will need to improve probably another £8. But you can only improve when you're with the horses to improve around you. And this is a sort of race like a Constitution Hill that you'll let it out and you'll go full belt. It's not one that you'd have your nap in, just because it's the fact that it's one of the most competitive races of the season. But at the same time, many people know that I've been a huge Galopin Des Champs fan. Like many followers are on. I'm on, I think 50-1 or 45-1. But a lot of people could get a bigger price with Sky Bet, and they're on 100-1 for Brave Man's Game when he won the King George, and then Galopin Des Champs to win the Gold Cup here. So there'll be a lot of people rooting for Galopin Des Champs, and I think he will. Well, I hope he will get it done. But much like Brave Man's Game, I think the better the ground, the better, just for these classy horses. But we don't know that, because obviously Galopin Des Champs is so unexposed. He might really enjoy the softer ground and the slop, because he found plenty off the bridle last time. So, but he's still a confident selection, and I'm happy that I think he's going to get the job done. And I'd have a saver on Brave Man's Game. So Galopin Des Champs to beat Brave Man's Game. But again, another one, wait for the prices in the morning. I'm not going to go into the Fox Hunters in mass detail. At the moment, the only current bet I have in it is the 11 to 4 slash 5 to 2 favourite Vorselay. Another one who I would be surprised if in the morning you're not getting a 3 to 1 or a 4 to 1 boost somewhere, just because of the fact that he's only raced once this season. He's very lightly raced. The reason that I'm stuck with him is the fact that I think the best trainer of the Fox Hunters is David Christie. Anytime Billaway doesn't run, David Christie picks it up with one of his horses, and he's got three brilliant Fox Hunter chasers. He's got Wing Leader, Vorselay, and Ferns Lock. Ferns Lock is a youngster. Vorselay was the youngster last year who they skipped the festival with, went to Punchestown and should have beaten Billaway, but unfortunately didn't get up on the line. Wing Leader obviously finished second in this race, having gone away and battled the whole way to the line, only to be pipped by Billaway coming from behind, having been softened up so badly, so they'd have been gutted by that. The fact that they've said from the start, having got Ferns Lock, who's probably is the best Fox Hunters chase currently at the moment, in the country, the fact they've got him at home and they've said that they're relying just on Vorselay, and this has always been the plan, says the confidence that they must have in this horse. And they've obviously got Barry O'Neill in the saddle. So yeah, he's short. People say I'm not backing a short one, but how much do people really know about a Fox Hunters race? I'd rather back a 3 to 1 shot or a 4 to 1 shot if he boosts, who will either run a massive race because his trainer knows everything about it, like putting your faith in Willie Mullins. And he's got form obviously with Billaway, who won this last year, and he has won races, and it's not like you're on a complete unknown, and doing it that way, or go and pick like 3 or 4 25 to 1 shots. So I may well end up picking up like a British Contender tomorrow, like in the morning, like I don't know, like a 9 or 10 to 1 shot. But my main bet is going to be Vorselay, and you're not going to have massive. Well, I'm not going to have massive bets in Fox Hunters Chase. I think it's a brilliant race to watch, really enjoyable, but you're not going to go diving in. There's just no reason really. And then in the 450, right? So this is pretty simple for me. I've got two big prices on this. Allegory Devassi at either 6 to 1 or 8 to 1, and then Impervious at 31 to 1, but 28 to 1 is what I actually put up. And they were both on the blog. So again, if it wasn't after yesterday, I'd say hopefully one of those two are going to get it done, and I'd expect them to, but you just never know. I think these two are quite a way ahead. The reason being is I think LMA is Zambella was beaten in this last year. LMA is just not been the horse that she was last year. I was happy the way she was slowly plodding along, improving, and I could see it in her. She was getting better. She's a slow, sluggish sort of horse that got better with racing. But this year, I'm not seeing that at all. Riviere de Town is a fly in the ointment when on a going day, but the horse is just so hard to trust. Like you look at her form recently, like she was jumping wildly the wrong way. She got hammered by Zambella. You look at her form behind Captain Guinness, and she should have beaten Captain Guinness. Obviously, Captain Guinness finished second in the Champion Chase, looks quite good now. But she was finishing right up behind Captain Guinness, and she should have won that day, but she just kept hanging out wide. And that's the issue. Like her jumping is just so erratic. And despite, it says her trainer's operated on, as in they've had an operation. So she could run straight and truer and stuff. The only thing, the angle with her is that if they end up going from the front, it could cause a few problems with horses like Allegory Devassi or Magic Days and stuff like that. So, but no, she's way too erratic that you'd want to trust. Obviously, she's got her form, but her form's below the front two anyway. And she's more exposed in the front two. Magic Days, I thought she had her day. She beat Dino Blue, who obviously most said that should have won the Grand Annual. She jumped a little better. But Magic Days, I thought she was the 2 miles from the front, getting your own way, around Nace the other day, sharp, and I thought that was her day. Like she pings, got a free easy lead, and I thought that's so. I'm not sure if she'll stay the 2 mile 4 in the soft ground. Obviously, this is, again, all of these are just my opinions talking off the top of my head. Jeremy's Flame has become the wise guy each way selection. Plenty of shrewd judges have put up Jeremy's Flame, and especially because of the fact of the marked improvement that she's shown. Obviously, a career best last time out, but at the same time, she's had 17 chase starts. So it's not like she's unexposed. She's not like coming in here like, what could she do? She's a 9-year-old, 17 chase starts. So she could well just be improving, or the other opportunity is the fact that she obviously won that race at Huntington, beating Zambella, but the race could have fallen apart and she could have just got flattered for that last rating. And that would be more, to be honest, my sort of view on the race. Not that she can't win or that she won't place, but I just think I'd hope that the two in front of her in the market are there for a reason. So the front two have both got to carry £3 more. And to be honest, this is completely down to, it's not me giving a tip. I put a selection on the fresh selection just for the sake of obviously putting a fresh selection, but I actually write exactly why I'm putting that selection. And that's because of the type punter I am. But this comes down to pure and simple. I think they'll both be 2-1, probably 2-1 a piece in the morning. And if Willie Mullins wins the Triumph, then the Gold Cup, stuff like that, by the time it comes to race time, Allegoria Devassi will be close to probably 5-4 evens, and Impervious will be more 2-1, 5-2. But it wouldn't surprise me if in the morning, especially with the ground being a bit more testing, that they're both around 2-1. So what I mean by is what punter you are is Impervious has the pretty much the perfect profile for this race in that she's battle hardened. She's won over the 2 mile. She's won over the 2 mile 4. She's beaten the boys whilst giving the boys. She beat Journey with Me whilst giving him weight, and they pulled like 10 lengths clear of the third. So it's not just that she's beating the boys; she's giving them weight. So she's not even using her mare's allowance. She got picked up by JP, so they've known for a long time how useful she is. And obviously, it's a big thing for Cole Murphy, and Brian Hayes keeps the ride, and he's been brilliant on her so far. She strikes me very similar to both last two winners in the fact like Cole Reevy and LMA is this race isn't won like as in won by a street sort of thing. This is won by battling. So like Cole Reevy and LMA went head to head a long way out, and they battled. They jumped jump for jump every single stride, and then they battled the whole way off to the line with the bridle. Last year, LMA was way back, and they were all finishing all over the shop. And LMA found and found and found to get up on the line and to win the mares. And that's the sort of thing Impervious. Impervious loves a battle. She loves a battle, and she's got the perfect profile for this sort of race. And she's at the sort of level that she wouldn't need an awful lot of improvement to get it. However, step forward and so if you're the punter that reads the stats, follows the guidelines and says I want a solid horse, because you know she can jump well, you know she's going to stay, you know she's going to run a race, and you'd be shocked if she's out of the three. Obviously that doesn't help you back in a 2-1 shot, but I'd be disappointed if she doesn't run a race. However, the other side of the punter is if you're a more aggressive punter and you like the flair, the classy horse, because Allegoria Devassi has got all of that. Like she is top potential to be top level. Like her form with, I know Brandy Love flopped this week, but Brandy Love didn't flop last year. Like Allegoria Devassi and Brandy Love racing the Solarino, which is Willie Mullins' best mare's hurdle trial. And that was last year, and Allegoria Devassi beat Brandy Love. Obviously, Brandy Love hung that day, as she loves to do. But Brandy Love then went on to beat Love Envoy, who obviously came second in the mares this year. So that's top level form. And since moving to Mullins, she's 4 for 4. On debut over fences, she demolished the field, but she did demolish the last. Well, didn't demolish. She was just a little bit sketchy at the last two fences. But a lot of people put that down to tiredness because it was very heavy and it was over 22 furlongs. So it's over almost 3 miles, which is shorter than here, longer than here. Sorry, in heavy ground. So there's going to be no issue with the ground for her. But the thing that everyone's worried about is that when she went to Thurles, she was like a kid in a playground. She just went. It was like Paul Townend gave her the kick to go, and she just went rioting straight towards the fence. She jumped out the side door, and Paul Townend was lucky to stay on. And she had no respect for her fences. It wasn't, I need to go straight, I need to go as low as possible, I need to do anything. It was, I'm just going to go out and have fun. And she was literally just running at fences and just throwing herself over them. There was no like perfect shape. There was no, let's make a silhouette. There was no, I've learned from my mistake, let's jump better. But at the end of the day, like she went round with consummate ease still. She's still won by 19 lengths from Brides Hill, who has won since. So the form is decent form. And on that day, she received a 162 RPR. And considering she achieved that, so that's £7 clear of Impervious, £7 clear of Jeremy's Flame, like £15 clear of Magic Days. £10 clear of £11 clear of Magic Days. And that was her with having a few jumping issues. But in reality, bar the actual first, where she was very erratic, she didn't look like she was going to fall. She just wasn't respecting the fences. And then when he spoke to Willie Mullins afterwards, he said, yeah, we didn't school her this week. We probably should have. We've left her a bit fresh. I think Willie Mullins saw the betting or whatever, saw that she was going to be 1-7. Saw the entries that were probably going to be about 5 horses, which end up 6 horses, and just thought, why don't we use this as a schooling session? Because she wasn't anything like that on debut. I think she will be well drilled and she will know what she's doing come the day. And also, I don't think she's going to be. She could go out from the front, but I think with the likes of Magic Days in here and Riviere de Tel, it wouldn't surprise me if she just sat in behind and took a toe. And I think the thing with this is that if she runs a race and she jumps all her fences, she wins. It's not like a question. She is the class act. She's a class above everything. She could be racing in a lot better races than this, in my opinion. The other horses could improve, Impervious in particular, but I think she's already at that level. Like if she runs to a 162, everyone's got to improve at least £7. Even giving £3 to Jeremy's Flame, he's still got to improve £4 or £5 on his 18th chase start as a 9-year-old. So the bottom line is, like me personally, I'm the sort of aggressive punter where I'm happy to take the chance on the superstar. Obviously, I've backed both, so it doesn't matter Andy's post. But if I was having a fresh selection, I'd go with Allegory de Vassi. You know she's going to handle the heavy ground, and the thing is, if she tucks in, say they take a lead, she tucks in second or third on the outside of a horse, and she's pinging them on the first 2 or 3, you're going to be like, oh, why did I not back her? Don't get me wrong, you've got the complete opposite end of the thing, a bit like Shishkin today, where 2 or 3 in, she's like off in the crowd or she's like not respecting, and you're like, because if you hit one, then obviously she comes down. But for me personally, I think she is 100% the big class act. Not saying Impervious won't win 10 lengths or any other horse won't win 10 lengths, but looking at what she's done at hurdles, like Group 1 hurdler, she's got the ability to be a top level chaser. So she's got the full potential. So, right, finally, on to the last race, and I'll keep this quick because I was supposed to be doing this quick. I'm going to give you 3 horses. So, despite me slating away Nicky Henderson in his form this week, which I think has been very poor, I don't like to slate trainers, but Bar Constitution Hill, who is obviously perfection, but he's a monster in himself. But thankfully, Nicky had him spot on the day. The rest of his horses haven't really run their races. Like he had his mares. Horses that were all well fancied, and they're very consistent. I don't remember the last time Epatante didn't run a race, and I know it was a big mess of a race, but they finished like 6th, 7th, 8th. And some of his other horses, he has had some big priced horses run good races. So because I backed No Ordinary Joe earlier on in the week in the handicaps, I'm happy to roll with him again at 22 to 1. So it would not surprise me if he's like 25s or 33s come tomorrow morning. So I think you've got to have a saver on it, because if I was happy to have him before, I'd be gutted if he wins here now. He's clearly very well handicapped. And this is clearly the plan with Luca Morgan on board. But the 2 I actually like is I like Cool Survivor. He'll be the main pick. Just a standard Gigginstown Martin Pipe job. They've won this multiple times. Gordon Elliott's won this multiple times. Sam Owen gets the ride, and he's more like the sort of profile of what I was saying with Willie Mullins' horses. So he got his victory early on at Cork, and then he's finished 8 lengths behind Hidden Valley Lake, and then he's finished 4th in a good race without going, like, as in he stayed on like a stayer, like a 3-miler, in the 22 furlong race. Is it Nathaniel Lacey, I think, behind Goodland. So therefore, that's the exact sort of profile I look for. 1 win and then a couple of really big runs staying on in behind in Group 1s with the best like novice hurdlers, because sometimes these horses might be those, but it's the way they're prepping them. So they're prepping them to come through slower, or they're trying to keep the mark on the little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So he has got a big enough weight. But at the end of the day, he's won on heavy ground, so it's not going to phase him. He's got a fairly good jockey. I say fairly good. He's got more than an able jockey on Sam Ewing. And I think he's around 5 to 1, 11 to 2 at the moment. So he'll be one of my bets. And the other one who's going to be a lot quieter profile, but back in the McManus colours, obviously you don't like to leave the McManus behind you, is Irocco. Irocco is currently 8th. I'm just trying to get matched literally just now on the exchange about 9.0. Problem is you could go and do that, and then tomorrow morning it could be like 12s. So sometimes it doesn't work. If it doesn't get matched, then it is what it is. I'll have to take 7s in the morning, or maybe bigger. And he's a completely different profile to your normal. And it's just strange because obviously you've got Oliver Greenhill, who's been training him, and Aidan Kelly, who's a quieter jockey for something like this. But he's been very sneakily campaigned, a bit like an Emmett Mullins sort of job, quiet job over in the UK, with two wins. The first one was only a length and a bit, and then he bolted up last time out. But he just looks like one of those. The way he won last time under Kevin Brogan, he was pushed along a bit and he just found plenty for pressure. And you just think, if it's a JP horse, JP horse now, you think, okay, especially as obviously he's only been with Oliver Greenhill for 2 starts. JP could have easily said, okay, well, can I send him to someone else or do whatever? But the horses, they've got 2 out of 2 with him so far. He's got in here. This is clearly in the pan. This is another horse who was on my radar for a different race this week, and he's ended up pitching up here. So yeah, so to finalise, you've got Cool Survivor is would be my main selection at 5 to 1, and then Irocco 8 to 1. I'd have a slightly smaller bet, but still decent enough bet on him, and then just a free bet or small bet on No Ordinary Joe. I mean, you don't want to, if a horse goes off at like 25 to 1 or whatever, and you've not had a couple of quid and you lose your money on the first two. So at the end of the day, the Martin Pipe's not one to be winning your money on if you've done your nuts the rest of the day. It's one to have a couple of quid on. You don't want to be throwing the lot in. So yeah, so that is the lot. I'm going to just do a quick run through, despite me saying this is only going to take half an hour. Right, so obviously we've got good prices, but I'm only going to cover the fresh selections. I won't go through all the anti-posts because I'm not here to come and say I've got this and this, because people don't want to hear that if you haven't got any bets. So my choice would be Lossiemouth in the first race. Very, very keen on Pembroke, and also Filey Bay. He's drifting, so he'd be one to wait till the morning. And he'd be the saver. Corbett's Cross is a bet, and also is Shambally Kid at 22s. I may well put Hidden Valley Lake up tomorrow as well, as a third selection. I know some people moan about too many selections, but to be honest, I really don't care. Like, if you can't work out how to make money off a 22 to 1 shot, an 8 to 1 shot, and a 4 to 1 shot in a race, then you probably need a new hobby. Galloping Des Champs, again, wait for the morning. He'd still be my selection. Galloping and Brave Man's Game. Fully respect our Plutards, and it would not surprise me if he gets shorter and shorter and he runs a massive race or he even wins. But it's one of those I'll take on the chin because of the quantity of how good a training performance it'll have to be. Vorselay, wait till the morning. He's currently 11 to 4. He'd possibly get bigger, and I may take a flyer at a bigger price one, or just skip the race. And Allegoria de Vassi is actually drifting, so she's now 15 to 8. Impervious is coming in for money. So again, I'm not going to say to you back this one or the other one, as I've described. If you're more aggressive, you're happy to take the risk on a jump in, a bit more frailties, but could be the classier horse, it's Allegoria de Vassi. If you want the solid profile for the race, who fits and ticks the boxes, but could be outclassed, it's Impervious. They're both about 2 to 1 right now. So couldn't steer off either of those. And I'd expect them to come above. And then obviously Cool Survivor, who's, I can see here, is 5 to 1. Irocco is 8 to 1, and No Ordinary Joe, saver, free bet or whatever, 22 to 1. So plenty of selections going into the final day. I'm not going to say like I've got this is a really strong one or whatever, just especially after today. At a bigger price, I did say Pembroke would be my nap. I'd be disappointed if he wasn't in the places, but I'd also be disappointed if he wasn't going close to winning. I just think he'd be strong travelling. It's just how much he finds, obviously, because there's 26 runners in the field, so you don't really want to nap in such a big field, but it is what it is. And I've also had a small Trixie, and the Trixie that I did was on Pembroke, Corbett's Cross, and Galloping Des Champs. So, in fact, I've actually got two. I've got one on that, and then I've done an even smaller one, which would be like a cover Trixie. And for people who don't know what a Trixie is, it's 3 doubles and a treble. So you need 2 of the 3 to win for it to return anything. And then I've done the exact same one with my other selection in the county, which is Filey Bay. So basically, Corbett's Cross and Galloping Des Champs, and then my main Trixie would be Pembroke, and then a small one with Filey Bay. But yeah, obviously, as I always say, multiples are just for fun. They might give you a £5 free bet in the morning, and you're like, okay, I'll just do a £5 double or whatever. You don't want to have your biggest bets as your multiple, because as we saw today, I can't believe none of those horses won as singles, let alone multiples. And obviously, the best thing tomorrow would be to tread carefully and try and build a little bit of a pot. And then if you get a pot, then you can obviously play with it. That's going to be a long day tomorrow, going through those 7 races, especially with the Mares Chase and the Fox Hunters later on. So I hope you've enjoyed the week. Hope you've enjoyed all the content. I've met some great people on track. I mean, I'm not going to obviously say names and stuff, but one Irish lad come up to me for being said how good my content's been the last few years. And he gave me more than enough cash. I didn't even check it or whatever until I walked away, and he's given me more than enough cash for a few beers, which is very considerate. Obviously, I haven't been drinking this week because I'm at home, coming home every night. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Really love the crack with everyone. And yeah, I'm ready to sleep for about a week, but obviously I will be back. Obviously we've got Aintree, we've got the Grand National coming up. Be back with video previews and the whole works, and the same with Punchestown. And I'll have obviously all my Guineas selections and Royal Ascot and all the works. I'll be doing a lot more YouTube now, so if you're not subscribed, I would, because they're going to be ran as 2 separate things. I won't be doing Twitter the same, as in they'll both be completely separate. Obviously, there's plenty of people on Twitter following, but as I've always said, it takes a lot longer to write than it does for me to talk. But anyway, I've gone on for long enough. I hope tomorrow you have a much better day, and I hope everyone has a really good day. And all the same, just remember it's a bit of fun. So if you're a £5 punter, don't start going £50 because it's the Gold Cup day, because it is no different to any other day. Whether you win or lose, come quarter to six, it's still exactly the same. And my only other piece of advice, and it's not like, obviously I'm not here to give advice, is just take a break after Friday. Me personally, if I've got money in my accounts, I empty it all and I just say, right, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I've got no rush to put any anti-post bets on for Cheltenham next year, and I'll reassess everything, do the reviews. Then in a couple of weeks' time, I'll come back to my accounts and start looking at Aintree and look at Cheltenham 2024. So I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Enjoy your weekend. I hope you all have a few winners tomorrow, and good luck.